Hello. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ann Bryant. I'm a proud member of the National Women's Sailing Association, and I'm also an admin for a group called Women Who Sail. I'm also a host of a podcast called The Water Society. I do a lot of other boat things as well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, our theme is reef. It is a safety move, and it's a type of knot. It's a wise course of action. It's a way to tame a boat back to efficiency in a blow. But of course, it's also defined as a beautiful, biologically diverse and threatened biome, a thing to be avoided at all costs when it comes to anchors and keels. Right now, I want to introduce Captain Amy Alton. She's led a waterborne life, and though she's joining us from Chattanooga today, she has completed a circumnavigation with her partner aboard a Helia 44 called Starry Horizons. And what started with dinghies at summer camp has led to over 45,000 nautical miles and her 100-ton master's license with a sailing endorsement. You've probably seen her YouTube channel, or maybe you've read her blog at outchasingstars.com. And in this story, Amy brings us to literal reefs, the ones we love to observe and that we work so hard to avoid.
Thank you very much, Anne. Coral reefs are a perfect microcosm for the cruising lifestyle. A reef can be a thing of unlimited beauty and joy. Some of the best places I've ever been are locations where I can swim by the reef and enjoy the possibilities of nature firsthand. But a reef can also be the worst part of cruising. There are so many terrifying stories of yachts hitting reefs, suffering total losses, and endangering the lives of their crews. The only time we've hit a reef was already one of the lowest points of our cruising life. I'm Amy, and in 2014, I sold everything, bought a boat, and moved aboard with my husband. In March of this year, we finished our world circumnavigation, closing the loop of 30,000 miles while visiting 27 countries and territories. My story today starts in Southeast Asia in 2018. We had just spent 2 years cruising the South Pacific, an amazingly beautiful atoll, amazingly beautiful collection of islands that we absolutely loved. We left Australia and we spent 6 months sailing on our way through the islands and up the peninsula of Southeast Asia. In that time, we discovered that cruising Southeast Asia is really hard. It is known for difficult bureaucracy. We had to hire agents to clear into Indonesia and Singapore, and we had to hire an agent to extend our visa in Thailand. We found trash everywhere, which was so heartbreaking. These normally beautiful beaches were just littered in disposable plastics. Overfishing in Asia had a massive effect on our cruising life. And this photo coming up is squid boats at night in the Torres Strait. How can you navigate around these things when you have no colored lights, when you have no sense of the rules of the road from them, and they absolutely do not answer their VHFs? Through the days in Southeast Asia, we had to deal with fishing pots like this one. They're very difficult to see, and they are everywhere. It was a real challenge for navigation. On top of that, the charts in Southeast Asia are awful. There are unmarked reefs everywhere, and several of our friends hit reefs. In addition, the water visibility is very low, and my love of snorkeling and scuba diving really took a hit. All of those things compiled, and we were really struggling on an emotional standpoint in our cruising life. And then we got to Thailand. And Thailand was this place that I was so excited to visit, and the #1 country I wanted to see. And we'd actually planned our circumnavigation around it, adding an extra year so that we could cruise the North Indian Ocean. We arrived into Satun on the west coast of Thailand, and immediately we had no channel markings and we had no channel on the chart. So we had to wait for an experienced ship like a ferry to come in and guide us through. Then we made a mistake. We didn't realize there was a time zone change, and we were reading our tide charts wrong. And then clearing in these difficult formalities took longer than we thought they would. So by the time we got back to Starry Horizons, she was stuck in the mud in the river. We ended up having to wait until 2 a.m. in the morning to get off the mud and continue on our way. Now, we just happened to have a haul out planned the next day, thank goodness for us. However, we arrived at the haul out facility and we had our worst haul out of our circumnavigation. We were hauling out via a rail, and the whole boat is moving like this as we're jerking along, coming up the rail. The crew of the yard was banging wedges under the bottom of our keels to stabilize us, and they actually ended up tearing part of our mini keels. And then there was a miscommunication, and I said, we want to haul out for 3 days. And they said, okay, no problem. But then once we were already hauled out, they said, well, the tide is not right. We're not going to be able to launch you. So we ended up getting stuck an entire extra week in this shipyard in Thailand. Now, this yard was not set up for cruisers. As you can see in the background of that photo, it was mostly local fishing boats. There were very few amenities, and they were pretty rubbish. It was a really difficult time. When we launched the boat, we had this huge sense of relief. Oh, thank God we're out of there. We went and anchored one night on one of the islands out in the bay and had this beautiful sunset. Oh, we're back on the water. So exciting. And then the next day, we motored to Koh Rak Yai, which is a tourist destination. All these speedboats would come in, drop people off to go snorkeling. The water was beautiful. The island was beautiful. We were so excited. We picked out a mooring ball, and I'm motoring us towards the mooring ball. We have the satellite imagery up, and we've checked the area for coral reefs because the charts were useless. And then at the last minute, we changed our mind and said, oh, let's go to this mooring ball instead. And here's where we made a couple mistakes. Neither of us thought to check the satellite imagery again. I saw a piece of trash in the water and just kind of ignored it. And then we got so distracted by how beautiful it was. The water was so clear, the reefs were, visible, and it was just so exciting when we were so ready to have this part of the experience. So I'm motoring us to our new mooring ball. And then I looked down at our chart plotter and realized our depth sounder is reading a foot. I throw the engines into reverse, and David calls out, stop, back up. And it is too late. We hit the reef. We got tied up to the mooring ball. David hopped in the water to check out the damage. And sure enough, we had busted our mini keel. We had underwater epoxy, so we applied it to the mini keel, but we were going to have to haul out again. After having that whole experience, we were going to have to go through it again. Unfortunately, it was getting to be the holidays, so everything was shutting down. And we had 3 guests coming up to visit us, 3 separate guests coming, 1 week trip each for the month of January. So we had 3 weeks of guests coming to visit us. Fortunately, or unfortunately, well, however we look at it, we were getting ready to cross the Indian Ocean. We absolutely needed to get this fixed before we took off from Southeast Asia. We were able to, through luck and a lot of positive attitude, we were able to get our haul out taken in. Our guests were amazing. They were all totally flexible with their schedules. They all came, they all had a great time. One of them even came in while we were hauled out. Everyone had a positive attitude about it, which is great. Some of the things we did to help ourselves were we got off the boat. We went out and we explored Phuket, and all those exciting things that I wanted to see, like eating Thai food and visiting elephants, we got to do those things. We got to step away from the boatyard life and experience that wonderful aspect of cruising. Having guests aboard can be really difficult, but a wonderful positive of it is that we get to experience the cruising life through their eyes. And when you take your friends out snorkeling and the visibility is really low and you're kind of like, well, this is disappointing to me. But when it's your friend's first snorkel ever, they are excited about it and they are passionate about it. And we get to rebuild this excitement through viewing it through our friends' eyes. After our friends were gone, after we launched the boat, we gave ourselves quiet time in a beautiful anchorage in Thailand. We hung out with some cruising friends, and certainly we could have taken an opportunity to go out and explore more islands, but instead we took the time to recenter ourselves and to get ready for our next crossing. We can look at the word reef and its other definition to take some lessons. Reefing sails is all about preparation and attitude. As sailors, we try to avoid hitting reefs or sailing into storms, but when it does happen, you prepare yourself the best you can and you keep a positive attitude. And that's why we were able to keep going and finish our world circumnavigation. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you very much, Amy. That is fantastic. I've been enjoying getting to know you through the internet, and it's really nice to meet you tonight, and I'm sure everybody else really appreciates you spending time with us. We have a few questions for you in particular. So one person asked about how much you draw, which somebody else very nicely answered 3'9", but I want to confirm.
Yeah, we typically say about 2.5 feet, but I do think that because our transducer is on the bottom of the hull, and then we have the mini keel that extends below that. So yeah, we've gotten down to like 2 feet on our transducer before, and that's always dicey, but yeah, that was, it was a pretty shallow reef there. Yeah. And as you can see from the photos, we're a catamaran. We do have a shallow draft compared to most cruising boats, but yeah, we couldn't make it over that one.
And someone else asked very early on, knew that you were going to be in, like, before any stories were even told. The question was, on a Helia 44, how do you feel about the durability of the boat after having done a circumnavigation? And do you like the boat? Would you recommend it to other people? Is that something that you feel the durability of the boat even after having whacked it on a reef? Do you feel like it's a good boat?
Duck it in the mud, whack it in a reef. David and I are actually very amazed with how wonderful Starry Horizons looks after, she'll be 6 years old next week, y'all. So she's 6 years old. She's done something like 43,000 nautical miles in total. We've really taken good care of her, but there are so many Fountaine Pajots out there, so many leopards, so many lagoons. These boats, you know, we meet all the different models of those big manufacturers out cruising the world, and I think it's a great platform for the kind of cruising that we're doing. And I think that the fact that we've circumnavigated has really been a great advertisement for the Fountaine Pajot models that we have. So yeah, I think we've been very fortunate in that we haven't had some issues that other friends have had that have come from either the factory or from the dealer or aftermarket issues. But I do absolutely think she's been a great boat.
Awesome. And so let's see. Oh, and then one last question. When will you go back to your boat?
Well, that is an excellent question. We are currently in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which actually I don't think we've talked about this yet, but we are in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we have decided that due to COVID, we are not going to launch the boat this year, which is unfortunate, but we are hoping that we will launch in April, and we will see what our cruising options are then for the summer. Yeah.
Well, you are most welcome in Maine. I hope we see you up here.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds cold, but it is not. It is fine. It is so beautiful.
We actually took Starry Horizons up to Maine. This was in September, October of 2015, and we left, I can't remember the name of the town we were in, but we left Maine like October 15th. And the morning we left, we had a diver come out to clean the bottom of our holes, and David and I are like bundled up, drinking hot chocolate, and this poor diver's in this water, and it is so cold. And we were just like, nope, it's time to go south.